All right, let's just get right into it. Welcome to today's Explainer. We are going to objectively break down some absolutely fascinating recent defense reports regarding a major strategic shift in Pakistan's military manufacturing. We're looking at a transition that has massive implications for asymmetric warfare, specifically focusing on a huge leap in long-range drone capabilities. So, if you're interested in modern military technology, the economics of warfare, and how smaller militaries are adapting to face larger adversaries, you are in exactly the right place. So, here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with HIT's drone manufacturing shift, look at breaking the range barrier, and then dive into the actual specs of the D248 drone. After that, we'll cover the economics of asymmetric warfare, the Ukraine blueprint, and finally, the regional security impact.
All right, Part 1, HIT's drone manufacturing shift.
Now, I want you to think about this number for a second. 6,000. That's 6,000 highly skilled technicians. We're talking about Heavy Industries Taxila, or HIT. And look, this is not some scrappy little private tech startup. It is a massive state-owned industrial complex located right near Islamabad and Rawalpindi. They operate directly under the Pakistan Army and the Ministry of Defense. The sprawling complex is literally made up of 8 separate production units, including dedicated factories for tank manufacturing, gun manufacturing, and advanced systems rebuilding. When an institution with state-backed resources and a workforce of 6,000 people decides to shift its focus, it operates on a totally different scale than anything in the private sector.
And that really illustrates the evolution we're seeing here. Since the 1980s, HIT has basically been the backbone of Pakistan's traditional ground warfare manufacturing, primarily building heavy tanks and armored fighting vehicles. But present day? Well, they have officially launched the HIT UASF, which stands for the Unmanned Aerial Systems Facility. This is a completely dedicated, specialized factory focused entirely on drone technology. We are talking about an entire industrial base pivoting to manufacture quadcopters, kamikaze drones, and loitering munitions at an absolute massive scale.
Which brings us to Part 2, breaking the range barrier. So prior to this state-backed push, Pakistan's private tech sector was honestly doing some pretty impressive work. They were successfully developing loitering munitions with a maximum range of about 1,000 kilometers. But 1,000 kilometers was kind of the hard ceiling. The private sector simply didn't have the capacity or, frankly, the budget to go beyond that. Enter the state-owned HIT, USF. With dedicated R&D departments and massive state funding behind them, they have completely shattered that barrier. They've introduced a new range of drones that can travel anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 kilometers. The reports highlight that no other company in the region has achieved this combined range capability with these specific types of systems. Okay, moving on to Part 3. Specs of the D248 drone. So the crucial point is really right here in the hardware specifications. The newly unveiled flagship is the D248. It's a delta-wing loitering munition. Design-wise, defense reports actually compare it to the Iranian Shahed drone, but with one massive difference. The D248 boasts more than double the range of the standard Shahed. Just looking at the math, it has an endurance of over 11 hours and a top speed exceeding 200 kilometers per hour. When you calculate that out, it provides an operational range between 2,200 and 3,000 kilometers. Having a low-cost drone that can accurately strike a target up to 3,000 kilometers away. That signals some major breakthroughs in low-cost propulsion systems. And the D248 definitely isn't flying solo here. The reports also detail a second system introduced by HIT. This one is described as an Israeli-style fire-and-forget loitering munition. Now, while it's got a slightly shorter reach than the D248, it still boasts a seriously impressive 1,500-kilometer operational range. Which brings us to a really fascinating question. If a military has the resources to build advanced hardware, why dedicate an entire heavy industrial complex to churning out low-cost drones instead of focusing exclusively on highly advanced, high-speed ballistic missiles?
That takes us right into Part 4, the economics of asymmetric warfare.
Let's see how this builds our understanding of the modern battlefield. The defense reports highlight a concept called strategic depth. Simply put, this is just the geographic distance between the actual front lines and a country's most vital industrial and economic centers. Pakistan faces an adversary in India that possesses immense strategic depth just due to its vast geography. Hitting key economic powerhouses or nerve centers requires traveling great distances past the front lines. Now, sure, you could try to hit those distant economic centers with ballistic missiles. But let's be real, ballistic missiles are incredibly expensive. They are strategic assets, usually reserved for high-level deterrence. It is totally economically unsustainable to use them for daily operations in a prolonged conflict. But low-cost loitering munitions, they are absolutely ideal for wars of attrition. By building drones that can travel 2,000 to 3,000 kilometers for just a fraction of the cost of a missile, a smaller military can continuously target a larger adversary's distant economic powerhouses. They can apply massive economic pressure without ever depleting their valuable missile stockpiles. It's a highly calculated exercise in wartime economics. Let's look at a modern comparison in Part 5, the Ukraine drone blueprint. The defense analysis explicitly connects Pakistan's new industrial strategy to the modern drone warfare blueprint currently being written over in Ukraine. Ukraine faces Russia, a country with arguably the greatest strategic depth on the planet. And to counter this, Ukraine has developed exactly this class of weaponry. For example, their Firepoint FP-1 drone hits targets at 1,600 kilometers. Their FP-5 Flamingo, which is a ground-launched kamikaze cruise missile, reaches 3,000 kilometers. Ukraine uses these specific platforms to strike deep inside Russia, hitting oil refineries, airfields, and nerve centers, effectively bringing the cost of the war directly to the Russian economy.
And the sources we're analyzing make it very clear. Pakistan is closely observing and adopting this exact blueprint. The establishment of the HIT drone facility is a direct response to the modern realities of asymmetric warfare. It's the realization that for a smaller military facing a larger one, the absolute most effective way to exert pressure and create leverage is through relentless, deep-strike drone attrition. Which leads us to our final section, Part 6, Regional Security Impact.
According to the reports, the impact here is threefold. First, we are witnessing a fundamental shift. A heavy industry known for tanks is pivoting to massive drone stockpiling, drawing a lot of comparisons to how Iran has built up its vast drone reserves. Second, the reports claim that this gives Pakistan a distinct tactical advantage, asserting that its regional adversaries simply have not yet managed to break the 1,500-kilometer range barrier with indigenous drone technology. And third, the sheer scale of it all. This isn't a prototype in a lab. This is an established, ready, industrial-scale production base that is capable of continuously churning out thousands of deep-strike weapons.
Which leaves us with this final, really vital question to ponder. As state-backed industrial heavyweights shift their massive resources away from traditional armor and toward low-cost, ultra-long-range drone swarms, how in the world will traditional, highly expensive missile defense systems adapt to this new era of asymmetrical attrition? It is a giant cat-and-mouse game of military economics, and the rules are literally being rewritten in real time. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the world around you.